direct this.
He tries to direct me. I'm not sure.
This is how I used to talk when I grew up on East 27th Street in Brooklyn, New York. So I love hearing Adrienne speak this way.
Thank you. It's the only way I can speak.
I like what she says substantively, and I like what she says phonically. Is that a right word?
I'm going to go with it.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I want to thank Adrienne Esposito, she has an adjective always attached to her name, the indefatigable.
Yes.
If that's how you say it.
Indefatigable.
Thank you.
Oh, there's one in every crowd, Senator.
Indefatigable Adrienne Esposito. And I also want to thank our Suffolk County Commissioner of Health, James Tamarkin, or as we might say, Tamarkin, and the Suffolk County Water Authority, Mario Matera. So today we're here to sound some alarm bells, once again, about our water on Long Island, because there are critical chemicals called PFOAs and PFOSs that are carcinogenic that could be slipping into our water. We have one more chance to get the federal government to take a look and put out regulations about PFOA and PFOS, but the signs don't look good. I met with the nominee for EPA, and Mr. Wheeler, and I asked him to put out these regulations, and he said he's not sure he would do it. So today I am announcing we are starting a campaign to get this done. I'm supposed to hold it up at some other point here. My staff, yes. Okay. Today we are announcing we're going to try to hold up his nomination unless he does this, and if that doesn't work, pass legislation requiring the federal government under the Clean Water Act to put out standards about PFOAs and PFOSs. Okay? One of the reasons we come to Long Island is clean water to drink. We have an amazing aquifer, and it gives us great drinking water at a relatively low cost. It doesn't have to be piped in from hundreds of miles away. But if that water isn't cleaned, what good is it? And because it's one aquifer, if it gets contaminated in one place, it can spread to the other places. So we need to do this. It's very, very important. But EPA is trying to walk away from its responsibility. The Clean Water Act says EPA is the guardian of the very name of the act, clean water. And to take a carcinogenic chemical like PFOS, PFOA, and say we're not going to pay attention to that, when we have learned that it is in many more locations than you would think. Here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible locations, all on water supplies, right here. It makes no sense whatsoever. I was really disappointed when Wheeler didn't jump to my request. I met with him a week and a half ago, and he doesn't deserve to be EPA commissioner if he is abnegating his responsibility. Now, some say let the states do it. First, the federal government, the federal government is the premier clean water regulator. The Clean Water Act passed by guess who? Under the presidency of?
Nixon.
Richard Nixon. So this was bipartisan, is our premier water regulator. And as part of the Clean Water Act come dollars to help clean things up. So to say let the states or localities do it, A, they try their best, but they're not like EPA, they're not like the Clean Water Act, and second, this should be a federal responsibility. That's what the Clean Water Act says, and those dollars would come there in that way. PFOA is used, it's a chemical that's used in certain things, but one of the things that we have found out, it's used when in firefighting. It's a foam that you use when you do firefighting. So any places where firefighters have practiced and used the foam, the PFOAs are around. So they're around in a lot of places. In fact, not here on Long Island, but the entire water supply of Newburgh, New York, near Stewart Air Base, or Stewart Airport now called, is off limits to the city of Newburgh, 20,000 people. And they have to buy water from New York City because of PFOAs and PFOSs. Now, in that case, I got the Navy, the Air Force, rather, to agree to clean up, but there are too many other locations, and we need the federal government to step in. Oh, here it is. I had the wrong map.
No, you had...
Cheers. Salute. Schlanza. L'chaim. Irish, Italian, Hebrew, Jewish. Is that pretty good for Long Island? Yeah. All three. And cheers. The good
Cheers.
old American. Cheers.
Oh, God.
That was a TV show. Cheers.
Oh, I remember.
Okay, this is the map. Oh, okay. I knew something was wrong.
Here.
Thank you. This map
It's the potential sites.
are the potential sites. In all these places, firefighters practicing, no fault, they didn't do anything wrong, used PFOAs and chemicals that contained, foam that contained PFOA and PFOS. These are the places we know this is potential, because we've just discovered that PFOAs and PFOSs are as harmful as they are, so people haven't tested in all the places that they should. Okay? Okay, let me call on Adrian. I think I've said all the things I'm supposed to say without reading my notes.
Of course.
Thank you. Of
Thank
course.
you. Okay. So why is this critically important to Long Island? Well, I think it's important to note here that this chemical is extremely dangerous. This chemical is so toxic, it's measured in parts per trillion. It has such health effects as damaging developing fetuses, increased levels of kidney cancer, damage to the liver, damage to the immune system, damage to the reproductive system. This is a chemical that's highly toxic. It also stays in our body a long time. It also stays in the soil a long time. So it's difficult to get rid of.
Doesn't decompose.
Correct. Thank you, Senator. It doesn't decompose, and it wreaks havoc in the health of humans. So it's very important to prevent contamination on one hand and clean it up when it is found. As the senator noted, this map here is a map of, some of them are Superfund sites already. We have in here the Yaphank Superfund site, which was the fire training center. Now it's a Superfund site specifically because of this chemical.
Right.
This chemical. We have a number of hits at Brookhaven National Laboratory, a number of hits at the Navy Grumman Plume in Carrollton. We have Gabreski Airport. And
the firefighters trained at Grabeski.
And then we also have Wayne Scott, which the health commissioner knows a great deal about, but it really is an unfolding tragedy. People with private wells drinking this chemical for an unknown amount of time, really doing unknown amounts of damage. So we have high levels of concern, and the EPA, in their mandate, is mandated to provide clean water and clean air. That is the purpose and the function of the United States EPA. And to turn a blind eye to this issue, which is literally impacting thousands of people we already know, and probably thousands of more, is really unconscionable. We need an EPA that fights to protect our water, not fights to keep it polluted. So we are thrilled that the senator is calling for the new director of the EPA to either fight for clean water or step aside and let somebody else do that who's willing to take on the battle.
Well
Thank
said,
you,
Adrian.
Senator.
And now we have, we'll first have our health commissioner, Dr. Tamarkin.
Thank you. I just want to make 2 points. First of all, there's this document that the EPA itself puts out
Right.
about
Yes.
PFOA and PFOS, and it has a great deal of information. And I want to read one short sentence or two. And it says, the EPA's job is to regulate a contaminant under SDWA. EPA must find that it may, 1, have adverse health effects, 2, occurs frequently, or there is substantial likelihood that it occurs frequently, at levels of public health concern, and 3, there is a meaningful opportunity for health risk reduction for people served by public water systems. And I think we all agree that this substance meets those 3 requirements.
All 3 standards are met. There's no way that they should not be regulating this, other than to want to help some industry or whatever.
That's right.
And just to give you a scope of what we've been doing over the last 2 years, we have done over 25 private well surveys. That's an analysis of private wells in different communities. We have tested over 850 private wells.
Wow.
And this is only of the areas that we know about. And as the Senator and Adrian have spoken about, there are other areas that we don't even know of yet. So this is not a small problem. This is a widespread problem, and it needs to be addressed by the federal government.
Thank you, Dr. Tamarkin.
Thank you.
And now we have Mario Matera, a member of the Suffolk County Water Board.
Hello, and I'm to say I'm very, very proud to be here today with our senator that fights for everybody, and Adrian Esposito, which you are definitely a fighter. I know you a long time. But we're proud to join Senator Schumer in demanding that the EPA set federal standards for the PFOS and PFOA, which has been Suffolk County's water testing for years. The fact that New York State has stepped up and appears close to establishing its own regulations on these dangerous chemicals does not relieve the federal government's duties to set national water quality standards and help pay the cost of removing the PFOS and the PFOA from the public water supply. You know, being a board member with Suffolk County Water Authority is something special. But, we're very concerned. And, Suffolk County Water Authority, we protect the health of all customers and residents for Suffolk County. Just like me, I'm a plumber by trade. The plumber protects the health of the nation. Very, very important to our hearts. In other words, our water supply is dear and precious because we are made of water. Very, very important that, in other words, this happens.
And I think we're about 90% water.
Right,
right.
and it's so, so important. And Senator, you are all over the place. You're an amazing, he's an amazing man. He doesn't stop. Do you ever sleep, sir?
He's
Once in a blue moon.
indefatigable.
Ask Jennifer.
Not just Jennifer.
So, again, we are proud to be here with the support and demand the federal government do their job, and you know what? And let's get the job done.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much.
Okay, now we have 2 more things to do. I'm going to announce my guest at the State of the Union, who's a Long Island resident, but I think we'll do questions on this. But I would like to tell a joke.
As long as it's not
Because
about me, we're
she
okay.
mentioned about decomposing. It's not decomposing. So here's the joke. It's very quick. So they finally found Beethoven's mausoleum, and they opened it up, and there he is, a little old shriveled up man, busy erasing paper. Busy erasing. They said, "What are you doing, Ludwig?" He said, "I'm decomposing."
Did we Facebook Live that?
All right. Getting back to more serious. I have a lot of jokes, in all the years.
I think one was good.
Okay. Should we do, how do you guys want to do it? Questions on this subject, then I'll do the Long Island
Okay, so
number.
Senator, 2 questions. One, if there is no federal law, if there's no federal mandate, what would be the cost for New York State to have to do the work itself?
Well-
and two, is there a major lobbying effort by industry to prevent the EPA from implementing these?
Yes, okay. On question number 1, there would be very significant costs. Because we don't even know yet the costs, because as you've seen by this chart and by what Dr. Tamarkin said, we're just learning how widespread this contamination is. This is a chemical that doesn't decompose
Yes.
and is deadly. So once you have a certain amount of it in the water supply, the same kind of thing we found with the plumes in Bethpage and in Farmingdale and in Massapequa, you could have here. And so it's serious stuff. Who's fighting against it? 2 people. One, there's a general view in EPA these days, as we heard from the horrible previous commissioner, that government regulation is not a good thing. And there are government regulations that go too far, but 95% of America is for government making sure the water is clean. So that's part of it. But yes, there are companies and localities that don't want to, not here in New York, that don't want to step up to the plate. As I said, it took me a long time to convince the Air Force to clean up the place at Stewart, because it costs money and they don't want to do it. But the companies that made the chemicals are fighting against it, and some of the companies that used the chemicals, if they weren't public things like firefighting also are fighting against it.
Detergents too? Detergent?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Could be in a lot of different places, and industry these days seems to have the upper hand in the EPA. Any other questions on this subject?
I just want to mention, too, to your question, the PFOAs and PFOSs can be filtered out with carbon filters, but private wells don't have carbon filtration systems. A lot of the public water supplies don't yet have carbon filtration systems. Some of them do, but not all of them. And each carbon filtration system, and Mario can correct me if I'm wrong, is about $750,000 depending on the size of the water supply well. So this is a costly endeavor. I mean, the good news is we know how to filter this chemical out. The bad news is it's going to cost a lot of money, and we also have to find out where it is first.
And who has it? As Jennifer mentioned, it could be in detergents, it could be in all kinds of things, because the level of harm that this does has just been recently discovered. The scope we know is large, we don't know how large, but industry is fighting, just instinctively against it. Okay? All right, let me go to, since I have no more jokes, since that one didn't go over so well. I do have other jokes, but I'm not going to tell them to you. Okay. Okay. So I am proud to announce that my guest tomorrow night at the State of the Union will be Mr. Ronan Byrne, who is a certified professional control tower operator from the New York TRACON. Mr. Byrne lives in Bethpage. He has 4 children, Phineas 5, Ethan 3, and twins William and Henry. And his wife, who is an occupational therapist, took off from work this year to help raise the twins. And so they had one income, and then they had no income. And I talked to Mr. Byrne, and what he says is, when you are in the TRACON, I don't know if anyone's been up there, it's a very, very nerve-wracking. You're in the dark, you're looking at this screen with all these little dots, and you have to make sure the planes stay a safe distance apart. So if you're worried about you can't have worries at home and do your job. It really, the people in the TRACONs, the people, we have over 1,000 over in Westbury at ours, are really, really, they were so hurt by this government shutdown. Thank God we're working on it not happening again. I don't think it'll happen again. But as a symbol that it should never happen again, I am proud to bring Mr. Ronan Byrne of Bethpage, New York, as my guest to the State of the Union tomorrow.
How do you spell his name?
B-Y-R-N-E. Ronan.
R-O-N-A-N?
Yes. And his middle name is D-E-C-O-M-P-O-S. Can't get off that one, can I? Any questions on that? Okay, then we'll take, as usual, since we have a very inquisitive press corps on Long Island, questions on any other subject you may wish to ask. Any?
What's your take on the Virginia governor? Do you
I
think
put out a
he needs
statement on that, which I'll
anything
get to
further
you.
on that,
No.
based on his press comments?
No, I put out a statement. Okay?
Are there any plans over the shutdown that's going to happen on February 15th?
Yes. We are working diligently. When Leader McConnell came to the view that the shutdown should not continue, he met with me, and we worked out a plan where we were going to have the Appropriations Committee try to come up with a way to refund the government, deal with border security in a way that would be acceptable to all sides. That's working pretty well. If the president stays out of it, I think Democrats and Republicans can get this done.
What does that say?
Just what I said.
I knew you were going to say that.
Very subtle.
Did you approve of your role in the Super Bowl ad?
Was I in? I did.
You were briefly. You were
He was?
pushing it. Well, remember, like before.
Oh no, that wasn't the Super Bowl ad. That
Well,
was.
It was you and Nancy.
Yeah, it was Steve. I would know. I was on. I didn't see it. I didn't stay up. I was on Colbert.
It appeared.
Yeah.
Before and after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was fun. And did you like the end? Where we
Yeah,
have this
pushed it away.
podium, and Nancy and I are pushing it away, and I say, "Juice it, Nancy!" And did they have that on? Yes. Okay. It was
I think
fun.
he enjoyed it based on the.
I think you approved.
I asked if I could tell my jokes to Stephen Colbert, but he said no. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a nice week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Oh, here's something else. Wait, since you're all my friends, this is the latest picture of my first grandchild, Noah.
Oh, that's great. Congrats.
And, oh, I want to tell you something. His middle name is Melvin,
Okay.
named after my father-in-law, who was a New York City cab driver. He passed away, and guess what? He sounded just like you and me. That I
God
used
bless
to
him.
sound. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Bob?